the Sony A3000. Now, for those of you who have seen some other videos about my A3000, you know that I've had a rough time with it, but it's not the fault of the camera. This camera is an early mirrorless APS-C sensor, right? Okay, and that's not its fault. It's how it was designed, and basically, what this camera is I want to say it has some short-lived imaging processor, and it's not a bad one. It just wasn't used for very long, and basically, as far as my understanding is correct, they had leftover internal components and then leftover body shells like this. So that's where this came from, is take the two the two pieces that you have extras of and then put them together into a camera. And this is a decently capable 20 megapixel mirrorless camera, and it can take some decent photos. Now, I'm too lazy to edit this video because this is a hobby I do. Sometimes I edit, sometimes I don't. And this is one of the photos it has taken, and to me at least, it looks pretty darn good. Here's my shit box car. It's really not that bad. It just has a lot of cosmetic issues, and that's why I got it for so cheap. Anyway, point is, you know, it takes some decent pictures, and you're looking at it through a monitor, right? So it's not gonna have quite, you know, the sharpness you would see as if I had edited this video. But you know, it's a decent camera. And it doesn't have a lot of the modern settings on a Sony camera, but if you're looking for a mirrorless camera that has a decent sensor that you can get for relatively cheap, then the A3000 might be something you may want to look into. Let's talk about it a little bit more though. So it being an early mirrorless camera means that certain items what's the word I'm looking for? They were not designed with something like the A3000 in mind. They were designed for something like the A6000 series or the A7 series, like this 7 Artisans lens adapter that I had tried to use to put my EF lenses onto this camera. And while it did physically fit onto the camera, we have our sensor here, we have that, and then we go ahead and put this on. And while we can see it physically fits onto the camera, if we go ahead and turn it on here, we can see that autofocus either doesn't work or is extremely slow. Now, I'm sure with some EF lenses, it'll be a lot better. Like, I have had some somewhat okay-ish luck with a Canon 50mm f1.8 with this setup. But with this adapter on this camera with my lenses, I have not had much luck. Now, the settings on this camera, while they may not be the best, and they may not be the most current, there's still a decent amount of options on this thing, even if it was somewhat designed to be budget and for a beginner camera user. It does have some basic eye tracking, and it does have multiple different settings for autofocusing. Like, for example, you can set it to only autofocus in the middle, or you could set it to use its multiple autofocusing points. And with this lens, this is just a kit 18 to 55 millimeter. I got just to put on the camera before I sell it. I'll get to that in a minute. It does a fairly decent job. And while the autofocus is not the fastest thing ever, honestly, I haven't had an issue with it once you put a Sony E-mount lens on it. So, you know, what is this camera, who is this camera made for? Who would be buying this camera in 2025? In my opinion, any beginner would have a fun time with this camera. The settings are not overwhelming. You can take this kit lens off and put a much more capable lens onto it later. It should work with any Sony E-mount lenses. And, you know, as far as I see it, the E-mount system is, you know, the second biggest system for lenses, third party and first party. You know, first being EF, which is, you know, why I have so many of them. I also currently use Canon EF cameras, which is another reason. But, you know, with the Sony E-mount, you have a wide selection of lenses. Both somewhat budget and others not so budget. And this really is, in my opinion, a good camera to learn on. And it feels great in the hand without being overly big. I will go grab my 5D as an example. It's not a big camera. This is a big camera. You know, it's absolutely massive in the hand. It's got a big old lens on it at the moment, right? Okay. This is, you know, at the moment, this is my main picture camera for trains, right? Okay. And then there's this guy. It's not a big camera. It's on the smaller side while still having that DSLR feel with mirrorless internals. You know, if you can find the body alone, you know, if you find just the body for $125, that's not a bad deal for this camera. And so, you know, now I've had my fun with this thing. I've done some testing with this thing, right? I've made a couple of videos on it. And I'm mostly making this video for someone who is going onto YouTube and trying to find some sort of current video about the A3000. I'm also trying to spread some awareness about how the fact that lens adapters may not work on this Sony A3000 so that they don't make the same mistake that I did. If you're using the Sony A3000, you're probably just locked into Sony E-mount, and honestly, that's not a bad thing. You know, it reduces compatibility issues if you just stick with a single lens type. You can take this lens type elsewhere, like on a Sony A6000 series, an A50, an A5000 series, or an A7 series. You know, well, actually, with an A7 series, you have to be careful because APS-C sensors or APS-C lenses, while they fit onto the same mount, do not cover the sensor on a full-frame A7 series, so you would have to be careful for that. But I digress. What am I going to do with this camera? Well, I'm going to sell it. And let's see here. I'm probably going to try and sell this whole kit for about $275 to get a little bit of profit off of it, and then we'll go from there. If it doesn't bite within a week or two, maybe drop it down a little bit. But what comes with this kit is your camera body, the kit lens, as well as the sunshade for said kit lens. You get a battery, as well as battery charger. You will get a 32 gigabyte SanDisk Ultra 100 megabyte per second SD card to go with it, as well as this 3D printed Sony E to EF manual focus adapter. Just because I tried this before I got the 7 Artisans one, and you know, on manual focus, both the 7 Artisans and this 3D printed one do the same thing. They allow you to use EF with manual focus, no problem. You know, it's autofocus that was very dodgy on that lens adapter. I think I'm going to try and sell this whole lot for $275 and see how that goes. This will be a ready-to-go kit. You know, after you buy it, or after someone buys it, you know, they'll either come pick it up or it'll get shipped to them, and then they'll have everything they need. battery, battery charger, camera body, lens, SD card, etc. They can also try just messing around with some cheap Canon EF manual focus or autofocus and manual focus mode lenses. I will also be selling the 7 Artisans lens adapter for like probably 75 bucks or something like that. This is updated to the latest firmware as of 2.5 weeks ago. So that's already done. But yeah, that's about it. If one of you guys are interested in purchasing this camera starter kit here, you can find it in my Discord in the camera section. I will also be putting it up on Facebook Marketplace, but obviously that won't show for everyone, you know, depending on what Facebook Marketplace settings are. So that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. You know, hope we don't miss the AC and the A3000 show up here. You know, it's been a rough time owning it in my experience, but that's because I was just trying to do a bunch of weird stuff with it. So hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in the next video.